Bienvenue. Welcome to Coffee Talk with King Francois I, where we will discover the tales, trials, and talents of Renaissance Festival performers, merchants, and die-hard attendees as we journey by way of light-hearted and even at times heartwarming conversations about the Renaissance Festival world. I am your host, Theodore Jander, aka King Francois I. Bonjour. Welcome to Coffee Talk with King Francois I. I am your host, Theodore Jander. In this brief episode, a reflection with coffee in hand, Installment 1, I offer a thought or three regarding a common sentiment shared by guests when asked the following question. For people considering being a part of or attending a Renaissance festival, what is the best piece of advice you can offer? But first, I would like to share a coffee-related story. This experience occurred about 13 years ago. I was participating on the cast for the St. Louis Pirate Fest in 2011. The group of cast with whom I prepared and readied for the day enjoyed the modern luxury of electricity to brew our own coffee. We were able to utilize the barber surgeon's workshop to set up the coffee maker as well as store our stuff during the festival day. Our belongings were not the only items kept in the shop, as it was used as like an easy access storage for the upper area of the festival site. You may be asking yourself, what is the significance? Well, bear with me and your question will be answered. So to continue, each morning of the Pirate Fest, the air surrounding the barber surgeon's workshop filled with the invigorating aroma of coffee. And throughout the day, we would usually imbibe in more coffee to keep our ship sailing, as it were. That's a good analogy. Every day, up until the last weekend, the final brewed batch of coffee was always consumed. However, with the Saturday evening's participant party on our minds, I imagine most of us became distracted from finishing off that last, let's see if I can come up with another alliteration, percolated pot. There we go. For many of my listeners, I would imagine you've come to hear me use alliterations a lot. They're just fun, though I do try to avoid overusing. Too late. Now, for the grand conclusion. Per our normal morning routine and with a late night, starting up the coffee maker was one of the first tasks after we had arrived on site. I was outside the barber surgeon's workshop setting things up when one of the cast members came screaming out of the workshop with coffee pot in hand. My first thought was it looked as if someone had already brewed a batch, but the expression on her face, and really the scream, said otherwise. Remember how I said the workshop was used for storage? Well, it was used for storage, but it was also located near a farm field which bordered the festival site. And that being the case, one can be pretty sure of the home such a building provided. Now, I am all about consuming protein in the morning to satiate my appetite. That said, with closer examination of the coffee-filled pot, we discovered the unfortunate demise for one of the workshop's residents. A mouse. Yes, sadly, the rodent percolated its last breath in a forgotten batch of brew. So, even though the story did not end well for Mickey, the rodent, we discarded the coffee pot, buried the mouse, and ordered some much-deserved Starbucks venti cappuccinos. So, from that delightful tale, we move on to the brief reflection I mentioned about the question asked of my guests for people considering being part of or attending a Renaissance festival. What is the best piece of advice you can offer? The common sentiment expressed by each podcast guest was just go. If you've ever thought about attending a Renaissance festival, go. I couldn't agree more. Even if it's a brand new festival that has opened in your area, go. If it's a festival that's been around for 50 years, go. Sure, the experiences will be a little different. Either way, just go. You don't have to go in garb, or you can absolutely go in garb. You could go as a pirate, an elf, a princess, or a prince, a fairy, a gnome, a knight, a peasant, a mushroom. You could even go as a stormtrooper. I've seen a number of those in my years of performing at a Renaissance festival. The list is long. And as I mentioned, the option to simply go in modern clothing, in other words, shorts and a t-shirt, is totally fantastic too. The one significant encouragement I offer is to just go and to do so with an open mind. I say this because the Renaissance festival world it's like no other. When stepping through those gates, you will encounter some of the most amazing, unique, brilliant, and yes, strange people in the world. And the wonderful thing is, we are all there to take part in each other's stories, to create an experience for the patrons coming in, for the artisans and merchants, for the cast, for the performers, you name it. Each one of us has our own story and our own experiences that we bring into that world. And those stories then continue to grow and become more vibrant and engaging the longer you stay as a patron, or if you were to go to another festival as a patron, or come back to the festival you first went to, or in the event you decide you want to join the cast. Whether it's a local festival, I know a number of people who travel hours to be on cast at another festival. Or as an artisan, you have created something to put out into the world and to offer to sell to other people. and to provide and add to their stories through what it is that you've created as an artisan merchant. Do you sing? Do you enjoy being on stage and performing? Maybe that's an option too, as a stage act. To my knowledge, there are no other large events on this scale of what a Renaissance festival encompasses, or maybe even smaller, that offer multiple facets of the four main large form arts and then some. When one attends a Renaissance festival or fair, they will interact with music, movement and dance, drama and storytelling, and visual arts, possibly a history lesson encounter or two, and a lot more. What's even greater is that you can talk with the artists, with the musicians, the performers, the dancers, the knights, the fairies, the king, the queen, or both, or anybody. It's more than sitting in a seat and watching the action from afar. By interacting and talking, you're stepping right into all that action, all that music, the painting, the sculpting, the woodworking, leatherworking, storytelling, dancing, and on. What a brilliant world. And it all starts when you just go. With that, I wrap up this installment of Coffee Talk with King Francois I. I do hope you enjoyed this brief episode and are soon able to make your way to a Renaissance festival near you, or even travel to a Renaissance village far, far away. Be on the lookout for the next installment of Coffee Talk with King Francois I. If you are a performer, artisan, merchant, staff, or diehard patron in or of the Renaissance Festival world, and would like to be featured on Coffee Talk with King Francois I, reach out to me by way of clicking on the following link provided in the show notes: www.theodorejander.com/Coffee Talk Podcast. Would you like to receive early access to each new episode, as well as receive a behind-the-scenes glimpse into the production and creative process for the podcast? If so, join the wonderful community of listeners supporting the show and making new things possible through Patreon. Learn more at www.patreon.com/Coffee Talk with King Francois. Thank you so much for tuning in to Coffee Talk with King Francois I. A bientôt, see you soon. Ciao for now, and au revoir.